Getting your first reef tank is a little like having your first child. You can do all the research you want in advance, but when the time comes, the reality is very different to the theory, so you have to work things out for yourself. So today I'm going to talk you through 7 habits that will make life easier for you, help you develop into a better reef keeper, and will ultimately improve your new tank. And if you're new here and want a weekly dose of reefing goodness, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss out on anything. First up then is a biggie, settling into a regular weekly water change routine. One of the most commonly asked questions from beginners is, can I run a tank without water changes? And while it is possible to do so, the reality is that only experienced reefers are likely to have success that way. 10% weekly water changes with good quality water will help keep your tank in balance and help mitigate any beginner mistakes you make. They'll remove bad things like nitrate and phosphate that will otherwise result in algae taking over, and they can help replenish good things like calcium and alkalinity that your corals and coralline algae will deplete. So whether it's on a Friday night or a Sunday morning while the missus is still asleep, set yourself a regular time and stick to it like clockwork. Next up is to make sure you inspect your tank regularly. Changes happen frequently in a reef tank, especially when the tank is new. Now most of those changes aren't a problem, so there's no need to panic. But if you understand the processes going on in your tank, it'll teach you how the ecosystem in your care runs. You'll also constantly discover new things, whether it's seeing a bristleworm for the first time or an Aptasia anemone. Now some of that stuff will be beneficial and some of it harmful, but you won't see anything other people haven't seen before, so just pop a question on a Facebook group or forum every time you find something new. You'll be amazed how much you learn and just how much goes on in your tank behind the scenes. Close inspection will also help you see if any of your fish have developed marks they didn't have before, if your corals are showing signs of distress, or if you have nuisance algae popping up. And while you don't want to rush to change things in your tank, catching troubles when they first come up is half the battle when it comes to fixing problems. Number 5 on my list of habits you must develop as a new reef keeper is a rather tedious one, I'm afraid. Cleaning your tank inside and out. The good side of that is cleaning algae off your glass a couple of times a week and running a microfiber cloth over the outside of your glass, which is the best way to make your tank look instantly awesome. And with a good algae scraper like the Tunzi Care Magnet, it's no chore. The more time consuming and tedious side of that though is cleaning your power heads and skimmer as often as possible and at least every couple of months. And if you have a Red Sea Reefer aquarium, it's worthwhile cleaning the diaphragm valve on your downpipe every 6 months or so, as it does build up a fair amount of dirt. Properly maintained aquarium equipment will give you maximum efficiency, whereas poorly maintained equipment can easily cost you 50% of the possible performance. And cleaning pumps doesn't have to be a ball ache. Just mix up some citric acid crystals with RO water at a ratio of around 50 grams per litre, leave it to do its stuff for a couple of hours, and the dirt will fall off with minimal elbow grease. Continuing with the theme of maintenance is number 4, testing your water parameters. While inspecting your tank by eye will give you an indication if something isn't right, that will only show you the symptoms of an underlying problem. Whereas testing can help you identify issues before they arise or help explain what's causing your problems in the first place. It's often said that in this hobby we keep water, not fish and corals, and following that approach will help you get to know your tank. You'll develop a picture of what nitrate and phosphate levels your corals like, what causes algae outbreaks, and how stable your other parameters like salinity, alkalinity and calcium are. Corals thrive on stability, and the first step towards achieving that is to test regularly. Testing alkalinity, calcium, salinity, nitrate and phosphate once a week will get you in tune with your tank's rhythm and will set you on the path to properly understanding what makes your very own marine environment tick. First on the podium is a much more fun one, talking to people. Now obviously watching excellent YouTube videos like this and reading articles is a great way to learn the ropes in the hobby, but you just can't beat a proper two-way conversation where you can explain your setup in more detail and probe for as much information as possible. All too often there are numerous answers to any given problem in the hobby, and everyone will have a different opinion. But the more people you talk to, the more you'll get to understand the variety of options you have to tackle problems and help provide a pristine environment for your wet pets. So join a local reefing club, forums, Facebook groups and so on, and get talking to people you meet in your local fish shop. Most of us are only too happy to share experiences with fellow saltwater enthusiasts. And the penultimate hobby you need to develop as a new reefer is patience. The reason nothing good happens quickly in a reef tank is that corals need stability, and the enemy of stability is of course change. But we reef keepers love nothing more than a bit of tinkering, and this is what people mean when they say you should keep your hands out of the tank. Reef keeping is similar to bonsai work or turning an oil tank around. What you need to do is make small inputs, then wait to see what happens. More often than not, if there's a problem in your tank, it will have been caused by something that's built up over a number of months. Overfeeding, for example, is a common cause of high nutrients and therefore unsightly algae, but it takes time for that to manifest itself. As a general rule, it's best to make one change at a time to fix problems so you can teach yourself what actions bring you success. Then leave it for at least a month, and ideally longer, to see if the tanker starts to turn around. There are very few things that give you instant gratification in this hobby, but that just makes it all the more satisfying when your hard work and skill over the course of a few months starts to pay off. And by far the most important habit to develop as a new hobbyist is to enjoy your tank. It's so easy to only ever look at your tank critically and see the bad things, and I often talk to people whose tanks look fantastic to me only to hear them highlight what they're not happy with. Because some tanks you will see are so spectacular, it's easy to be critical of your own efforts, but reef tanks are so diverse and fascinating that there will be something incredible happening in every single tank. It might be characterful fish like a blenny backing in and out of a cave, or a mated pair of clownfish setting up home in one of your corals, or even some micro critters swimming around in your sump that will make you realise the extent of the ecosystem and food chain you've created. Now, looking critically is actually a positive trait to have as a reef keeper, as it's what makes you strive for a better aquarium. But just make sure you take time out to enjoy the fruits of your labour and appreciate the wonders of your little slice of the ocean.